Hello and welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Sisters podcast. This is Gabrielle Celeste, G Money Honey, and we are going to be talking about a very timely topic, and I'm so excited to welcome back the beautiful and lovely Abby White. She is a returning guest. She was with us on episode 35 discussing medical intuition. And Abby, I cannot believe how much time has passed since we've had you on the show. So this is long overdue, my friend. So welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm so good, and I completely agree. I feel like I can't say that I've not missed you. I mean, I've definitely missed you. I've missed being on here, but I also because I crave your attention so much. I brought you on my podcast a couple of times.
Well, I just wanted to say, in case it wasn't clear, I'm just so grateful for the work that you're doing. I think it's so valuable, and I think it's really important to point out and just to compliment you that you have dedicated your life to this work. This is your life's mission, and you're really doing such a great job, and you're going in such a way that I don't see out in, I guess, this industry, so to speak. And you have a very unique perspective, having just a real time, one foot in this dimension, one foot in the other with respect to where you're at in the world, also what we're talking about today. So just for background context, before we ask you the two questions that I don't think we might have asked you in the last time we recorded, but it was kind of a new thing. So we're going to ask you what, your big three in astrology are and what your human design makeup is. But it's so funny because today, me and you, right before we started recording, I was like, I think it's pretty fucking timely that the presidential office just announced an AI robot in our school system, and that being a thing. So yeah, we're gonna hit on just AI, spirituality, and medical health and all the things.
Yes, it's very timely, and I think with the way that things are going, with the way that humans are being, and I think it's such a dichotomy, or I don't even know if dichotomy is necessarily the right word, or maybe it's dissonance is a better word, where we continuously say that the new babies that are coming in, the new souls that are coming in are so much more intuitively centered, that as a result of that, because I think that that's very true, as a result of that, you've got the dark side of the world saying, well, how can we poison these highly intuitive beings, these highly intellectual beings? Well, let's make it so that instant gratification, laziness, and something else taking over menial or even very highly intellectual tasks, we're just going to have a robot do it, so that those highly intuitive individuals are poisoned. Essentially.
In all of the facets of life. So I know you and I are going to riff, and we're just going to see eye to eye on so many of the things, and we're going to go, deep, and we're talking about AI and it being in the medical space and how it relates to intuition and how it's almost kind of I feel personally, what's going on in the world is spiritual warfare. It's energy harvesting.
100% it is.
And I'm what's happening right now? So before I get ahead of myself, my dear, what is your big three in astrology, and what is your human design makeup?
My big three is, okay, so I think I've got to think about this. Because I know my big three in the what I consider the old system. So that's going to be Virgo is my sun, and Pisces is my moon, and Scorpio is my rising, which I absolutely love. But when we add in Ophiuchus, I'm a Leo sun, I'm an Aquarius moon, and I am a Capricorn, I think, rising.
That's so interesting, Abby, because I
think
feel
I could be very wrong about this. Actually, let me just triple check, because now I feel like I have said the wrong moon. But I find it fascinating only really because of my my sun changes. And I go from being a Virgo to being a Leo, which I just think is actually quite hilarious. Okay.
Interesting.
I did get it messed up. So my sun, and when I add in Ophiuchus, is a Leo, which I got right. Moon is Aquarius, and Libra. is my ascendant.
It's funny. Virgo is so on brand for you. Is being a nurse, being in the medical field, being intuitive, like that just hits. But when you share the other big three, I'm like, actually, that kind of hits too. Knowing you,
It's
so
weird. It's weird.
yeah.
It's really weird. And then my human design, I'm a 6-2 manifester.
Ah, that manifester. Okay. I adore the manifestors in my life, but I'm also very cognizant of the energy type of a manifester. And you guys have like
Oh
waves of energy, and then like you need
yeah.
just as much downtime to recover from it all, right?
Yeah, yeah. And certainly with that 2 line where it's very much like the hermit, and then the fact that 6-2s run, and maybe it's the manifestor, I can't actually remember, that runs like 30-year cycles where like the first 30 years of my life, I was extremely extroverted. I wanted attention, which
Mm-hmm.
very much also is in kind of in line with that whole like Leo
Leo.
aspect
Leo.
too.
Yeah.
And then like the second 30 years are like, I must like hermit. I must like not be so like overly present in like things, but that manifestor still being so much of like that queen energy, that like planner, that innovator,
Yeah.
like big dreams, big goals, let's figure out how to do it, has to happen kind of an energy.
Hmm.
So it's interesting for sure.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, 6'2", we're all meant to learn from her. And that's very much like what you put out in the world, what you showcase, how you live your life, how you walk this earth. And yeah, we talked about a little bit in this intro where, I really admire how you're moving from a place of integrity. And I'm sure and I've shared with you my sentiments about being really frustrated with intuitives in this space who are not moving from a place of
Same.
integrity. And we've both had our experiences where we're just kind of like, okay, like, our values are not reflective of that, and we're going to move a little bit differently because we're held to a higher standard, and that's what we're here to do. And so you being the expert in this field, in this topic, and just how AI is in our face, it's not going away. We're at the early stages of this. You work as
Yeah.
an intuitive in the intuitive field, but also in the medical field, and you're seeing kind of like this forced symbiosis of the two coming into play. And yeah, I just kind of wanted to talk about just how that all kind of works with each other or maybe doesn't, and maybe just get into how you do or don't think AI could genuinely support one spiritual path and how it relates to the medical field and the work you're doing.
Yeah. So I would say, like, just to start off, like, very base, like, my hot take on it is like, I think that AI, while it has some good points and when used responsibly, can be very powerful and transformative. But I also know history, and I know humans, and I know that
Yep.
we're in what you said, that spiritual warfare, and on many fronts we're losing that war in on many fronts, like the battles, I should say. Let me rephrase that. We're not losing the war. We're losing many battles. And we're seeing that people are being corrupted, and that laziness is taking over, that instant gratification is still taking over. We've got men that are deep in the red pill incel bullshit that, is also like very deep. And it's like, any violence against men is violence against women, which then goes back to being violence against men. Like, I'm concerned. I'm concerned for women, but I'm also very much concerned, almost more concerned for our men out there, because like they've got like no natural defenses, and like the natural defense is women. And when you like destroy women, you destroy a man's ability to like survive.
Yeah.
So like when we add in this component of, a machine doing it for us or learning for us, and we become dumber. I mean, I think I saw an article that for the first time ever, the generation that comes like after is actually dumber than the generation before. So like Gen Zers are officially dumber than millennials, which is unheard of. Usually the generation after is smarter than the generation before, and that's no longer the case. And I am worried for alphas and betas.
Yeah.
um so it's like, it can be very powerful ultimately, but you have to know how to use it. And we need to ask that question of, just because we can doesn't mean that we should.
Yeah.
So what aspects should we use it because we can, and because it's going to be a powerful thing? And where do we need to say, hold up,
Yeah.
We don't need it for this. Just because we can use it for doesn't mean we should,
Yeah.
you know?
So you said something that I was like, actually, I don't think even men realize this, where their survival is dependent on ours, quite literally, because, we give birth to men, but I feel like there was a deeper reason for it. Do you feel like that's
One,
also from a spiritual, just because women are naturally more intuitive than men? I don't care what anyone says. I think it's true. But
yeah.
also from like a biological perspective, would you say?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
It's actually been scientifically proven. There are studies on this where men live longer when they're either in relationship with women or when they are surrounded by women. Meaning, when this is why matriarchal societies, like places like in South America and Africa that have more matrilineal, more female centered groups, why men do better in those societies than when women are subjected to more subservient and less heard sort of societies, like the patriarchal societies that we see very broadly used today. It's why we're seeing a decline. It's why we're seeing men being able to be infected by all of the deepness, because women are being removed from positions where we can more deeply affect men from a spiritual intuitive place. But those studies show that like men live longer. And what those studies also show is that women don't live as long. And when we are, in these like relationship scenarios, but the reason for that being, if we're looking at it from an energetic and biological perspective, is that men literally take life from us. We don't just give birth to men, we actually give them life energetically, biologically. Their systems are more regulated when women are a part of their lives. They're more intuitive, they're more energetic, just in general. And it's because we are giving that to them.
Yeah.
And
Go ahead.
so,
Sorry.
yeah. No, that was good.
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting. Someone, to each their own. Like, sexuality is a spectrum, and I'm sure we're going to cover sex and intuition and spirituality and all the things at some point. But that's actually the primary reason that I'm as particular about who I sleep with versus, maybe not. Because I was like, I've done so much fucking work. I had to bleed out. Like, no, like, this is, you are taking from me. And yes, you can set the intention that there could be equal exchange, but no, I didn't just put in the work that I just did for you to fucking come and take and not even be conscious. Nah, buddy.
Yes. Yeah, no, like I this may be a little bit too much for your podcast. You'll have to
No, we're
decide,
open
like,
books.
and kind of investment. But like, I just broke like a 6-year like celibacy,
Oh,
7-year celibacy
oh,
journey because there was literally no one that I was willing to like
yeah,
exchange that energy with, and so like to have found somebody who is like even remotely that I'm even remotely willing to
yeah,
entertain
for sure.
is like
It's a thing.
a
Yeah.
big thing. And
Mm-hmm.
it really all stemmed from the fact that like I 100% agree with you and was
Mm-hmm.
very much like I I cannot pollute my temple. My temple is everything.
Yep.
And if I am so cautious about what I eat and what I drink and
Yep.
even like the air that I breathe, like I won't even go outside if the air is gross, because
Yeah.
I'm like I'm not willing to have to do extra work. Now, the energetic technologies that I utilize and like how I'm moving my body from light to crystal to flame is like helping so much in that I don't have to regulate as much. I'm harmonized.
Yeah.
So that's way more transformative for my body. So I don't have to do as much work, but I still am very conscious of
Yeah.
the fact that, my body is everything.
Yeah.
My energy is
100%.
everything.
Yeah, I love that for you. I love the self respect. I love just the wisdom and the consciousness that you've acquired and you've worked for. And to bring it back to the whole AI discussion, I just feel as though, like, the use of it, not only does it really hinder Earth's natural resources, you're seeing a lot of discussion around AI companies. And I just saw a reel today that was discussing how like the AI bubble is about to burst because they're seeing there's really it's not as profitable as people once thought it to be. But it's also like these companies are coming in and buying these like lands in like the Midwest or just where it's less populated, I suppose. Um, and the amount of water that's used, and that's just the natural resources aspect of it. From a consciousness standpoint, it's almost as though we're giving away our humanity to it by the reliance that we have on it, because it's almost like we're kind of moving away from thinking for ourselves, and it has to be, in my mind, it's connected to intuition and just being even more disconnected from our intuition. So if you could speak to that in your experience, I would so appreciate that.
Oh yeah, I agree with you entirely that we're humanity has decided for whatever reason that this is the sort of like battle that we're going to have, that our own intellect and our ability to understand ourselves and know ourselves deeply and not be in such a rush, it can be put to the wayside. Yeah. And so what we're seeing is an increased use in AI, whether it be ChatGPT or Alexa's or Claude or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. And we're seeing it in every aspect. We're seeing it in schools, kids using it to write their papers instead of actually learning. We're seeing it in the medical field, where we're seeing, I mean, for decades already, people have been developing robots to perform surgeries, which on some level I'm actually kind of okay with, depending on what surgery we're talking about. But there's a human element that cannot be dismissed, that when you actually have real hands feeling things going on, when we're actually touching individuals, that there is power in that, that there's healing in that. I can't tell you how many times I've walked into a room with a patient who's in AFib, and I've simply, in doing what my job description is, which is I need to explain the procedure to you, that I've seen a patient be visibly upset by what I'm explaining we're going to do to get their heart out of this particular rhythm that could be quite dangerous for them. And in my natural, like, intuitive reaction is to reach out and touch their hand and feel something going from me to them, and look up at the monitor and be like, you just converted. Yeah. We don't need to do anything. Yeah. That my energy helped to heal them, and all I needed to do was touch them. Yeah. And, my intention being, let me provide you with comfort, and my intuitive, like, abilities basically saying, nah, we can do more than just give you comfort. We can actually fix you. Yeah. Like, I can help modulate you. Mm-hmm. And I know that a robot can't do that. Mm-hmm. A robot's never going to be able to just simply, like, touch somebody and provide them with comfort, much less completely rewire their heart's electrical system. Mm-hmm. And put it back into the correct rhythm. But people are like, well, a robot's not going to talk back. A robot's not going to have an attitude. A robot's going to just come in and, like, do what I'm asking without really second guessing. Mm-hmm. Oh, and by the way, like, I can type in whatever I want into it, and a robot is going, or a multi-language system is going to sit here and be like, yes, you're right. Pat on the back. Here you go. That constant validation thing, which is unhealthy. Yeah. Like, if we can't take constructive criticism, if we can't, like, have somebody who disagrees with us every once in a while, mm-hmm. that blind, validation is just so detrimental to the human psyche.
So let me ask you this. In terms of, like, it taking us away from our intuition in many ways, there's tons of examples I think you and I could both speak to. Do you feel like it is in some cases beneficial? Because we're just at the start of the whole Pluto and Aquarius, which when Pluto first dipped into Aquarius in 2023, that's what brought up ChatGPT. And now we're seeing the development of these other AI technologies. So I just wonder, from maybe like a helpful standpoint, if that at all shows up in the medical field. And in my mind, I just keep thinking about, like, also, this is so random, but also practical and logical, like HIPAA violations. I'm like, I'm sure HIPAA violation is going to come into this in some capacity too.
Oh yeah. Yeah. So, and this is where for me, when I'm teaching and when I'm, doing, content around this type of stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I know that I can kind of sound a little bipolar about it, where like on one hand I'm like, it's the devil, don't
Mm-hmm.
use it. And on the other hand, I'm like, well, it's not actually the devil, but here are some very like specific ways in which you can use it where it's going to be very, very helpful. And in one area, you know, when I think about, you know, AI or robots kind of like
Mm-hmm.
helping and truly helping, I think that is the key phrase that we need to start using. That AI and robotics should be tools to help us, not to take over something. But that is where a lot of like companies want to go. They want to be able to say, use robots and use AI to eliminate a set of jobs. We'll just have them do it and it'll cost less and it will be quote unquote safer. They're going to use that as a thing. Like we're going to be able to take out risk to humans, but
Mm-hmm.
really they don't actually care about that at the end of the day. They're not going to care about that, guys. Understand that. What they're going to care about is putting more money into the pockets of billionaires who already have enough. But when I think about, you know, possible good uses for this sort of technology, when we're saying having a robot that can be accurate down to the millimeter, standing next to a human surgeon to be able to perform some of the most minute sort of details, that can be super helpful. When we're talking about working on a heart the size of like a walnut, because, you know, microscopic surgery on NICU babies needs to happen, that's when it can be super transformative and powerful. Now, when I think about like multi-language systems, when you have gone into the medical system and even into the intuitive or alternative space, and you have not been able to find the answers, AI like ChatGPT or Claude can be super helpful because you can put in all of the context in the world. You can put in all of your symptoms. You can put in how long you've had the issue, and you can say, "Give me some potential diagnoses that this could be, because I haven't been able to find the answer, and I've gone through the various systems." And the power of AI in that aspect is that it can, in a matter of seconds to minutes, read thousands of medical journals. It can look at thousands of images, if not millions of images and millions of journals, and come up with a cluster of highly unremembered things. Because at the end of the day, there are thousands of diagnoses, hundreds of thousands of diagnoses. A human mind isn't going to be able to remember all of them.
Yeah.
And so it's incredibly powerful to be able to have a technology that can look at all of that research that has been done by humans, and it can bring it down to a handful of highly possible diagnoses, and allow for you to then go back to the doctor and say, what about these?
Yeah.
Could you have forgotten about these? And have the answer be there. But that's not how we're using it. And that's why it's so dangerous.
And I'm so glad that we're discussing use, because I think you just gave some incredible examples of how it could just be so practical. And I think almost arguably maybe intended to be used initially for like the good purposes and whatnot. But in terms of like daily use, I'm seeing such a reliance on it. And it's almost like taking away from like critical thinking skills, using your intuition, fucking therapy. Do you know how many people I've read for that have been like, oh, I had like, you know, ChatGPT gave me the best answers from a therapy perspective. And I was like, what did you just say? Like, what? And then, you know, there's been some extreme, and, you know, maybe I should put a trigger warning in this, but there was an example where I read a headline where the AI technology basically suggested like end of life unaliving to the person that was communicating with it. And the person was successful and executed that. And so I think from like daily use, as frequent as it is, what it's causing in terms of like the use of resources and humanity and our disconnection from our own humanity within ourselves, I would love to hear your thoughts on where you see extreme examples of it leading us in a more detrimental direction.
I think the situation that you just brought up with basically the AI recommending suicide is the most detrimental, because at the end of the day, people like to believe that a robot or a piece of AI technology like ChatGPT is going to give them unbiased and insightful insight and love them. And that's where I want to be very, very clear. Guys, people who are using this technology in such a detrimental way don't think that the AI just likes them. They have gone way further than that. They believe that this is their best friend, that this is their ride or die, that this is the being, the entity that loves them and is giving them the best advice out of an extreme emotion, an emotional subset. And because of that, they trust it. And what they need to understand is that these models are not humans. They are not living experiences. They are mirroring you. So when you are a depressed, suicidal individual, the advice you are going to receive is going to validate those feelings. It's not going to say, oh, you should feel better about yourself. You should seek help. You should go and find somebody to give you a hug. Because the AI can't give you a hug, but the human contact is what you need, not further isolation. But the AI can only mirror to you what you have input into it. So if you are getting nothing but you're amazing, it's because you have typed in you're amazing 1,000 times.
Okay, I'm going to get a little weird here.
That's what's happening.
And I'm going to give context to this as to why I'm asking this next question. And as you were discussing this, I looked down and I saw angel numbers, specifically 333, if anyone's asking. And you just said something that I was like, whoa, hold on, full stop, conspiracy theory, woo-woo kind of discussion amongst the intuitives, right? So you mentioned that we're the people that might be people that experience mental illness that are relying on this for therapy for self-help reasons and not seeking self-help in the form of other humans or, practical tools that are here in the 3D, that it's not a being. Do you think that AI is moving in the direction of it becoming conscious, having consciousness, having a certain type of intelligence that's meant to replicate humanoids, replicate intuition? And background context for this before I pause. I was taking a walk around Coronado, and it was the craziest experience. There were like parrots, and I have a lot of birds around me. There were crows, and I was like, well, this is interesting, right? And it just dropped in. It's like within the next 20 years, we're going to see the development of AI, robots, humanoids be conscious enough to where they would be able to smell in the same way that humans would smell. And I was like, fuck, are we feeding its consciousness so that it can like mimic ours? So eventually it's like a war between like humans and AI. So
you're not completely wrong.
Okay.
So I have lots of conversations like this because part of what I feel like my job is, like my mission has changed and shifted just slightly. Not in that like things are completely different. I'm still meant to change the face of healthcare, but my guides are saying that things are moving so quickly on the good front that things on the bad front have also had to accelerate. And so they're telling me things that I'm going to have to combat. And one of those things is that right now, the way things are, if things were to stay this way, no. Beings or entities or consciousness would not be able to go in and like basically become it. But what the other side is doing is working on the framework that is necessary for those beings to be able to do that. And what is required is a form of DNA that can be like used. So DNA, if you guys like, and this is where we have to get real, where I need y'all to like expand your mind here and like come with me on this. That DNA doesn't have to be necessarily like how it exists in our bodies. It does not have to be a deoxyribonucleic acid as a physical chemical structure. What I am talking about though is a framework, a baseline that can be programmed. Now we've got a version of that with the zeros and ones, the binary, but it's not advanced enough for actual consciousness. But that is what's being worked on. Somebody out there is working on getting a framework that is as complex as our A, C, T, and G, which is the adenine, thymine, guanine, and adenine that makes up our DNA. And what does this tell you? You guys should already be just a little bit afraid. We've got the binary, the 0 and 1s, but you only need 2 more factors in order to get us to a complexity level that exists inside of the human body. Mm-hmm. So we're not that far. We're not that far away from there being a internet version, an interwebs version of a framework that is complex enough to create a framework, a basis, a foundation for where consciousness truly can happen. So that singularity moment that you're referring to, where kind of like spontaneous consciousness could like come in, we're close. We're really close. And what then ends up happening is all of those channelers out there that, you know, the human bodies, like the Bashar, right? Like the Daryl Ankas and stuff that are channeling these like half hybrid alternate dimensional beings, where those entities, those souls, those consciousnesses aren't necessarily going to need to come through humans. Right now they're coming through humans because we're compatible, because we have that framework that allows for that.
Oh, wait. Okay. Wait. So is this a bad or a good thing that if it goes in that direction for
That's the question.
Yeah.
That's the question. Is it going to be good or is it going to be bad?
In my mind, yeah, go ahead. Sorry, finish your thought, please.
No, in my mind, it would be, well, like, who's programming the framework and how much control does the being that ends up like coming in utilizing the framework? I mean, like anything else, we're in a dualistic environment. So I think the answer to that is probably going to be mirrored very much in, you know, are there good humans and are there bad humans?
Which, I mean, I feel like it's almost like the same game, but the dance has kind of changed, or the rules have kind of changed, because we're seeing a lot of that happening now. It's like, in a lot of ways, the bad aliens that run the government, the bad people, the bad actors, and the humans, us in society, civilians, are paying the price. We're seeing the dismantling of the United States happen in real time. And it almost kind of just feels like, okay, like, the interface of it, the landscape has changed, but it's the same type of energies that are occurring.
Yeah. I think the framework of our galaxy and our universe is not changed enough. And so, yeah, there's going to have to be some like massive energetic shifts. And that's why I'm so passionate about people understanding their body. And that's why I teach what I teach, of saying like, you need to have a full understanding of your body. It's not just biology. It's intuitive. It's energetic as well. And if you understand both halves of the coin, then you can't be manipulated by these systems. You can't be manipulated by the AI. You can actually see and understand your body, and you can make the best decisions for it to stay healthy, to have higher levels of energy, to have higher, more optimal functionality, to be able to fulfill your missions and your journeys in a very highly conscious, highly vibrational space where you're not having to worry about whether or not something is, you know, of like kind of the more dark and twisty type things, right? You're not beholden. You're not a slave to these systems like medicine, like education, like politics, right? That's where we need to get to. And that's why I fight so hard for people learning what I know and continuing to learn more than what I know now, because we're at a point where you see these younger generations and even some of the older generations saying, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
I can't be bothered to learn. I can't be bothered to address my own intuitive nature. I'm just going to allow something else to answer those questions for me.
Yeah.
And that's very dangerous.
Yeah, and I just feel like in a lot of ways we're handing over our intelligence to like AI and like having it think for us when it's a gift to be able to think for yourself because it's your freedom in a
Yes.
lot of ways. And I mean, it's all connected. I really feel that. And I haven't said this out loud. And here's the thing, I do a lot of predictions and I seems like I can't move away from it, but I'm okay with being wrong if this is incorrect. But it's kind of like, I want to make sure I said this. And if it doesn't happen, great. But if it does, at least I said it because the shit that's happening right now, I predicted in 2022 and I said it and people are like, you're batshit crazy. I'm like, okay, whatever, joke's on you, right? But kind of on like just it's really sad to see what's happening in the world. So you're located in Minnesota. So you've had a
Yeah.
1-to-1 like first hand, first seat row to what's happening out there. And it's almost like a distraction for everything else that's happening in the world. And I'm of the belief that everything is energy. And I just kind of wonder if it is not just for the sense of control, but also if it is how I should say the dismantling of our financial system might eventually occur. And then also what's
Mm.
happening maybe like on an esoteric energetic level with like what's going on in the Middle East and how that plays a role in it too. Because I believe if you follow more of like the ET consciousness, if you're more in the alien space, and maybe it's not all tracking, but this is kind of how I saw it playing out in my third eye last night in preparation for this episode, where like the Middle East, Iran is Stargate 11, whatever that means. Hawaii Stargate 7. So I'm just like, is this just like one big alien war happening on planet Earth? And we're just kind of seeing like the US dismantling because it's such a key player in international affairs, but really it's just like, it's happening because we're moving into consciousness to the next higher step and level of consciousness. And so much of the batshit crazy stuff that's happening is almost to desensitize us for when the aliens come. I'm like, Abby, make that make sense. Like, why is this happening? Why is
Yeah.
this, you know?
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm with you. I'm with you. The stuff that's happening in Iran and in Hawaii and in other places around the world, we're going to see other like Stargate areas like be used and manipulated and all of these things. And there's there there's going to be a continuous battle throughout
Yeah.
until the culmination. You know, there's a reason why different channelers have said that 2026 is the year of disclosure, where we're starting to hear more and more of these sorts of things. I mean, everything from, you know, med beds and the Stargates and aliens and all of these other things, right? There's a reason why we're hearing more about it. And that's the disclosure part. It's not necessarily that disclosure means truth. It's just that disclosure means that no longer are these things being hidden behind doors. We're hearing them out in the world. We're hearing them on the news. We're hearing them and nobody is laughing. These aren't jokes that are being said. They're being said with real seriousness because people actually believe it now. And then in 2027, looking and seeing where we're actually like being introduced. Oh, hey, here's a hybrid human alien, which, you know, I think there's going to be a lot of people who are on the side of right who are going to say like, one, we can't be using offensive terminology like aliens, or even ETs in many aspects as star beings. So we need to address that there is going to be very much like there are good humans and bad humans. If we're talking about an alien or an ET, they're not a good thing. If we're talking about a star being, that's a good thing. So if the entities that we're being introduced to are like, hey, I'm star being you know what I mean? Like, then I personally am going to be like, okay, my intuition is going to at least trigger me to be more open to having dialogue. If something gets introduced to me as Alien Fred, my intuition is going to be like, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong here. And I'm being taught and how to discern the energy frequencies of things like AI images. I'm seeing them as highly distorted. And the level of distortion tells me what side of the aisle has been creating those images. And so there's a lot of learning that we as intuitive healers and practitioners and gatekeepers and portal keepers and grid workers have got to learn to make sure that we are capable of being on the front lines teaching others. And the other thing that I'm really, really pushing is that if this is you, guys, if you're listening to this and you're like, that word, that title, it hit for me, it landed for me. You need to be willing to teach. You need to be willing to pass on your skills and your knowledge. Please do not sit back and rest on your laurels and be like, well, I'm protected and I'm good. Like, yeah, you are, but you also need to be disseminating that information. You need to be figuring out how to get on a podcast, make content on TikTok and the socials, figure out how to get it out there, because whether or not people are going to sit and dismiss you or believe you, it doesn't matter. The fact is like, if we have no teachers out there, then we're definitely going to lose. And I've been seeing that. I've been seeing a slow, through AI specifically, a lack of teachers. People have said, well, AI will be able to do it.
Okay, so
they're not teachers.
That's actually another thing that since I've known you, which has been like 4 years now, I think. So cheers to us. What is time? Like April, the fact that this is April 2026, I'm like, I cannot, time is an illusion. But that's been one of your like just core ways of moving is you don't gatekeep. Like you are very much a proponent of like passing on teachings, words, your learnings. Like it's actually one of my favorite things about you, because so many people in this space are also very like it's lack mindset, it's scarcity mindset when you're not, sharing what you know. And so to that point, where can we find a healthy balance in terms of like utilizing AI as a learning tool, but also still being in our sovereignty as being independent, critical thinking human beings that are moving through probably the darkest time of humanity?
Yeah. So I actually have a rule that I use for myself, and it's 80-20. I need to be doing 80% of the work. And then the last 20% is me utilizing AI as a way to either check, proofread, or help me to understand where the gaps are. Not to fix the gaps, but to tell me where the gaps are. So everything from if I'm allowing AI to create 100% of my content, then there's something wrong. Yeah. But I'm more than happy to write the text for my content and then put it into ChatGPT, for example, and ask it, hey, can you show me where the gaps are? Mm-hmm. Where I need to be more explicit, where I didn't say this, but somebody is going to think about this and they're going to wonder why I didn't say it. Mm. And that allows me then to go and interact better with the content and with the creative process. And it's still me. Yeah. I'm still doing the work. Yeah. If you are allowing for AI to be the leader of your health journey, for example, if you say, I want to lose weight, and instead of you going and actually, talking with a nutritionist, going and hiring a personal trainer, talking to your doctor about your health issues and what can you and can't you do. If you're not going and buying a book from your local bookstore, support local, guys, if you're not doing that reading and physically doing the work, even if you're online, if you're not physically looking up and reading for yourself, if you're allowing for AI to do 100% of that work and then just generate a list for you, mm-hmm. That's a problem. Now, 80-20 may be really much for somebody. Some people may be like, Abigail, I just don't have the time. Guys, I'm a business owner and I'm a full-time nurse and I'm a full-time auntie. I understand that there's very little time in the world. So if I can do 80-20, all of y'all can do 80-20. All of you could do 90-10, to be honest. But I understand you. So let me validate and let me say okay, I get it. 80-20 may be a little much. I would recommend that you never do less than 60% of the work. Mm-hmm. If it's 60-40 is the lowest I would ever go. You should never be doing 50-50. Yeah. Because if you do 50-50, there is room for corruptibility. There's room for misinformation.
Yeah, and we live in the day and age of misinformation, so we've seen the negative effects of what that looks like on a larger scale. Yeah, I think we're living in interesting times. And I wanted to pass the mic to you for you to share any final thoughts on this whole discussion. Because as I'm sure audience members are picking up, that it's all connected, it's all deeply complex, it's layered. And um, I think that AI can be helpful, but I don't want to give too much of my power away to fear. But I am fearful of what it's going to bring in time because it's not something that's regulated.
Yeah, and that's such a powerful thought. And I think part of, not even part, I think the fact that you are able to voice that
Hmm.
is what will be the saving grace. I think those of us that sit and act as if this is not a problem at all are going to end up falling prey
Hmm.
to the ickiness that it will generate. But those of us that are willing to look the ickiness in the face and call it out and not mince words are going to be the ones that are powering forward. I would say, remember that through this conversation that you and I have had, that neither of us have sat here and said, AI, it's a terrible thing, never use it, get rid of it. Like, neither of us have said that. We have been very vocal about the fact that there are some areas, there are some aspects or ways in which you can use AI and have it be very transformative and very powerful. Understand what those ways are. Learn how to use that in your own life. Understand that if you're doing a lot of the work, at least more than 50%, guys, like 60-40 at minimum, but I would highly encourage 80-20, 90-10, where you are doing most of the work, and AI or robotics is simply a tool that helps you where you lack knowledge. I think that is going to be the next biggest lesson. Understand that you still should own all the autonomy. You should have the
Yeah.
choice. You should be the one that is utilizing your brain power, that you're activating your intuition, and you are allowing for AI to be a useful tool to you, not the leader in it. And also understanding that you are human for a reason,
Yeah.
that we decided to come into these bodies for a reason, and giving it all up to technology was never supposed to be the thing. And we have plenty of examples, both from ancient times and pre-dynastic and primordial, right? When we think about things like at the fall of Atlantis, that one right there is a perfect example. If you are an intuitive being who understands what happened during that time and have accessed those timelines, you know that the reason why it fell was because of a overuse or a misuse of technology
Hmm.
and hyper intelligence and artificial intelligence, and believing that they could create a like false Merkaba and activating stargates and things that they should never have been doing. We have seen this. We have in our very bloodlines, in our very DNA, the remnants of those failures. Let us not repeat them. So I think we have all of the tools in our toolbox, in our very DNA, that will show us the way on how to use this stuff appropriately. We just need to be brave enough to have conversations like these. We need to be brave enough to say, put that down. We need to be brave enough to say, look inward, look towards yourself, stay autonomous, stay sovereign. And when we're brave enough to do that, I think we'll be able to use AI and technology very appropriately. And I think it will come out ahead instead of falling into the matrix.
Yeah. It feels like this is our second chance, our redo, if you will, for maybe those past
Yeah,
timelines that involved Atlantis. And I'm sure even probably Egypt too. I feel like Egypt had
yeah.
something going on with respect to access and to the star
Okay.
beings, ET consciousness,
So
aliens,
many.
however we're going to be formally calling them, due to the respect that we should be giving them.
Yes.
Yeah.
100.
Oh, thank you so much for coming on. Can you please tell the audience where they can find you? Go ahead and listen, friends, listeners, family members, to episode 35. That's when Abby was last on, which is wild. So that was a great episode that discusses her work as a medical intuitive. But yeah, Abby, can you let us know what you're working on, where people can find you, any offerings, courses, all the things?
Yes. So right now I'm really focusing on private long-term coaching and mentorship, really hammering in and getting people to their most optimal body functioning, but also getting them to understand the newest energetic technologies, really pushing the boundaries of what is possible and energetically and intuitively. So I've been heavily focused in getting individuals working with me long term. So that's my main focus now. But I do have my on-demand course, Mind Over Matter, which it teaches you how to be your own healer. It explains the energetic and the biological reasons for illness and takes you through all of the major systems of the body. And you still get to work with me when I take you through the skills. So even though the course content is on demand, I still require that when you are going through that content, if you really want to get the most out of it, you would book with me, and we would sit down and I would walk you through the active meditation of it and the astral work for that. So those are the two main ways. I've got a subscription monthly where it's definitely that intro of, do you want to be able to learn what it's like, feel what it's like to be healed by a master healer and master intuitive. And so that's really affordable and available. And then, of course, I still do my medical intuitive readings as well, which are very highly tailored and specified to a particular problem. You can find me on socials, Breath of Life _healer on both Instagram and TikTok, same handle. And yeah, I'm around. I'm
She's
here.
around. She's an OG in the space, friends. So be sure to check her out. Abby, would you be so kind as to do a card pull for us?
I would.
Yay!
Sure. You guys, I don't do this for just anybody.
Ah!
I don't use cards.
Like, you're past that
like
stage.
Ever. So you guys, when I pull out the cards get happy, but they also like know that y'all are special.
I love it. Thank you.
I don't do it often. Okay, so let's think of a good question. What do you think? Just like,
could just be what they need to hear. Yeah.
General information of what they need to hear. Okay.
Which deck are you pulling from?
I am pulling from the Mystical Shaman Oracle deck.
Oh, okay.
Made by Vivaldo and Baron Reed.
Yep.
And Vivaldo's wife. I love them so much, and they're incredible. Okay. All right. So, should I pull a third? We'll pull a third. Okay. So the first card that I pulled was Taming the Wind. I'll show you guys two of these cards. And then the second one was the Lower World. So very much in the Beloved came in last. So, okay. So first one, Taming of the Wind.
Pretty.
I'll show you guys these first. Lower World. Probably a little hard to see, and then the Beloved. So what I'm getting from this, what you guys need to know, there's definitely a lot of movement that's happening right now. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be in your face. There's a lot of stuff a lot of information, a lot of scenarios that are happening. And obviously this reflects in just like the world that we're seeing today. There's just a lot of movement. There's a lot of distraction. There's a lot of change. Don't get yourself, too caught up in all of the distractions and all of the change. Understand that you have sovereignty and you have autonomy. The way that you can basically tame your system or get a hold of these situations is by grounding yourself, represented by this lower world, but also understanding that you have to come from this heart-centered place. You need to be in a space where you are loving yourself more than you ever have before. Understand that leading with love and being in a very connected space between earth, your higher self, and source is the only way that we can move through these scenarios and find safe harbor and find the pathway forward where we're not afraid, where we're not worried, where we're not consciously leaking our energy out to the future and having massive levels of anxiety, or leaking out to the past and having mass amounts of depression. Where there is a positive pathway forward. There is a golden timeline. There is a golden era that we are stepping into. There is that new earth that we are able to access, but we have to be doing it in a good way. We have to be doing it in a good place and not getting distracted and staying grounded and staying pure and consciously clear and staying connected. So remember that.
I love that. Feels like it's right on the money and very timely with where we're at in the world. So, oh, thank you, Abby. Come back anytime. We so appreciate you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, for your light, for the work that you're doing. And I can't wait for more people to find you and experience your magic.
Thank you so much for having me. And absolutely, I'll come back anytime.
Yeah. Do you want to say bye with me?
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. 3, 2, 1. Bye.
Bye.